Howdy peeps. Today in the United States, it's Independence Day. And today we're going to talk about ways LDS singles can free themselves in their lives. Join the Journey Radio starts right now.
Welcome to the infusion of positive energy into the lives of single Latter-day Saints everywhere. This is Joy in the Journey Radio.
And welcome back, peeps, to the wonderful, splendiferous, joyous episode of Joy in the Journey Radio. I am Lance, your host for Joy in the Journey Radio, and this is episode number 393, Free Yourself. If you're joining us in the live chat today, then, if you're joining us for the live broadcast, please join the chat. Tell us where you're listening to the program from. If you're watching this as a video later that I've posted to YouTube or Rumble, then go ahead and hit the comments down below. Let us know where you're listening from. That will let us, boost the algorithms to push our helpful content out to more people. And yes, today is a holiday, but there are no holidays on Joy the Journey Radio because we want to thrive every day, not just on work days. You live your best life. You want to do that every day of your life. You don't be taking a break from that. And that's what we do here on Join the Journey Radio. So now you can see that, I got microphones in there, right? So I'm a true-blooded American. I got my Fort McHenry shirt on today because, for those who don't know, Fort McHenry was the fort there, guarding the bay outside Baltimore, where during the War of 1812, Francis Scott Key was imprisoned on a British ship in the bay, and it was the battle that he saw that inspired him to write the words that has become the national anthem for the United States, the Star-Spangled Banner. So I feel it's appropriate, today being Independence Day, I'm wearing my Fort McHenry t-shirt. This is somewhat of a controversial issue. I say somewhat just because, especially here this year especially, I wanted to bring Join the Journey Radio more into the international space. So there is some hesitation on my part to celebrate a holiday that's specific to any one country. But for dyed-in-the-wool, true Latter-day Saints, it's hard to deny that if you don't have America, you don't have the Restoration. So celebrating the birth of America is roundabout ways a celebration of the Restoration. But the birthday of America also presents Latter-day Saint singles with an opportunity to reflect upon their own freedom in their own lives. And that's where I want to focus the program today. Many LDS singles are not free. They are enslaved. Now, I'm not talking here about sin, although anyone who is trapped in sin is in fact enslaved. No, I'm talking here about barriers that prevent LDS singles from having the maximum amount of joy in their lives. And here's the catch. The barriers were put in place by the singles themselves. To quote Oppenheimer, we have met the enemy and he is us. Very often we are our own worst enemy. So let's go through a list of ways in which LDS singles keep themselves from the maximum amount of joy in their lives. By removing these barriers, we can actually not only increase the amount of joy in our lives, we'll increase the freedom that we have in our life. So joy and freedom kind of go hand in hand. So let's get going. Now, longtime audience members will not be surprised. The first on my list are less effective habits of thinking. Right? The results we get in life are largely the product of our actions, and our actions come from our thinking. Most will readily accept that many of our actions are performed out of habit. Well, the same thing is true for our thinking. Much of our thoughts pass through our heads out of habit, and many of those habits direct our focus. Now, your focus determines your reality. So if your thinking has you focused out of habit on the negative, then your reality will not only be negative, but you will feel trapped in a never-ending cycle of negativity. It works the other way too, by the way. If you change your habit to focus on the positive, then your reality will not only be positive, but you're going to feel empowered in a never-ending cycle of upward progression. A key part of improving your habits of thinking is awareness. I mean, you can't change what you don't know about, and that's why you need to question everything, especially the way you think. So adopt the habit today, here, right now. Adopt the habit of stopping yourself when your habits of thinking play themselves out and question what you are doing. Questioning everything is the key, not only to raising your awareness of what you're thinking, but also of evaluating your habits of thinking to know which ones need replacing and which ones need reinforcing. Next on my list of ways that LDS singles can free themselves are false assumptions. These are ideas underlying thinking. That's what an assumption is. And a false assumption is when we believe something to be true that really isn't true. I mean, it doesn't matter how effective your thinking habit is if that habit is built on a belief that something is true when it really isn't true. The assumptions behind our thinking come mainly from our surroundings, our upbringing, our backgrounds, and our own experiences. So because this combination will be unique from person to person, so too will be the specific assumptions that underlie your own habits of thinking. And that makes it difficult for me to give blanket advice that can apply to any single Latter-day Saint. I can, however, provide an example of a faulty assumption that afflicts many LDS singles, and that at one time afflicted me, but now no longer does because I questioned not only my habits of thinking, but the assumptions that underlie those habits. Many LDS singles falsely assume that righteousness is the main requirement for obtaining a worthy eternal companion. It makes sense why we think that way. I mean, the counsel we most often hear from our leaders in response to the pain of wanting an eternal companion and not having one is to live worthy of it and wait for the Lord's timing. Well, that's not entirely untrue. To obtain a blessing that comes with a covenant made within the sacred walls of the Lord's house, we should live worthily. But temple marriage does not necessarily follow worthy living. Many LDS singles who assume that it does find themselves in a crisis of faith, wondering where their companion is when they have lived worthily, but no companion has come into their life. As I mentioned, I myself had that experience, and it caused a lot of pain in my life until I began to question my assumption. Does eternal marriage really come from righteousness? I knew that answer was no, because I had many years of my own experience to demonstrate that I had a temple recommend and had been actively keeping my covenants, yet at the same time I had no eternal companion. Once I stopped assuming that righteousness alone would bring my companion into my life, I also stopped expecting to find my companion simply because I was righteous. And once I discarded that expectation, much of the pain that came with that expectation not being met went with it. I also began to question what actually did produce a marriage companion, and that led me to adopt more effective habits that are more aligned with the way things really work. Many of the problems that we have in our dating journey is that we don't understand how things work. It's not like there's a manual, although I have written one. I'm trying to get it published, and I'm working on another one that's going to be even more explicit than the one I'm trying to get published right now. But most of us are just acting out of assumptions and habits that we've inherited from other people around us in the larger culture of Latter-day Saint society. Well, we adopt these without even questioning. And I'm saying you really need to question a lot of what you're being given, right? Because some of what you're being given is okay, and some of what you're being given is not okay. And the only way you're going to know which is if you start questioning everything and searching for what's true to ferret out, separate the wheat from the chaff, as it were, right? False assumptions can drive less effective habits of thinking and acting. So question everything, including and especially the assumptions that underlie those habits. It's just more than a worthwhile exercise. It's the key to unlocking joy while remaining every bit as single as you ever have been. And this is the crazy part about it, is that once you start doing this and applying it in your life, like it doesn't change the objective reality, but it does change how you think about it, and accordingly with that, how you feel about it. So you can be just as single as you ever have been, and yet you can be so okay with it. And for a lot of years in my life, I wasn't okay with it, and that created a lot of dissonance. And with that dissonance came a lot of confusion, pain. And once I started to question everything and start to align my thinking with the way things really work, and to get rid of the assumptions that were based on ideas that weren't really true and replace them with ideas that really are true, well, then I started to find a lot of joy in my life. And my objective reality hadn't changed, not one bit, but the way I felt about it changed. And then that led to other changes in my objective reality that were moving me in a more positive direction. So, unfortunately, not everything has worked out the way I want it to, but I'm okay with that because I'm on a journey. I'm on a journey, and I understand that eventually, if I keep myself grounded in truth and adopting more truth and getting rid of the assumptions and thinking and the habits that are based on untruth, that the more I adopt truth, the more I'll come to a place where I am actually where I want to be. So yes, question everything. It's the key to unlocking joy while remaining every bit as single as you ever have been. Another way that LDS singles can free themselves is to break the bonds of habits that enshrine mediocrity. Many of us get comfortable with things as they are. We keep wishing that our lives would improve, but we don't actually change any of the habits that have given us a life beneath our privileges, because we're just too dang comfortable with a mediocre existence. Now, singles wards are particularly troubling in this regard because they create space in which singles life and its attendant lack of progression towards marriage and family life is normalized. There's also many older singles. Note, I put older in air quotes, older singles living in geographic wards that have done exactly this. Whether they are widowed, divorced, or never married, they have grown so discouraged in their search for a companion that they have created a life of comfort without one and have essentially settled into that life. Part of the secret to experiencing joy is in progression. That is because when we progress, we follow the pattern set by God, who is himself endlessly progressing. Progress means change, and change means not settling for mediocrity. So while you are questioning your habits of thinking and the assumptions that underlie them, question what you do. In addition to asking yourself, why am I thinking or doing such and such, you should ask, where will thinking or doing such and such lead me? If you don't like the answer, then make a change in your habits of doing and thinking so that you do like the answer. Many sets of habits lead to mediocrity, and collectively the state they engender goes by many different names. including laziness, indolence, slothfulness, idleness, and procrastination. Indeed, our modern society seems to encourage this state of mediocrity by pushing activities that provide dopamine hits with very little effort on our part. These activities never bring joy because, as I explained earlier, joy comes from progression, and progression means positive change or improvement. The insidious part of all of this is that these activities, in and of themselves, are not bad. What is bad is when they devour us and become our whole purpose for being. Wow, looks like somebody's out there a little early with the fireworks. So, like I was saying, these activities in and themselves are not bad. What's bad is when they devour us and they become our whole purpose for being. So, where is the line of safety, the boundary between enough and too much of these activities? A good rule of thumb that has worked well for me is this: look at how you spend your time. If your activity has you spending more time consuming what other people create than producing your own creations that can help other people, then that's a good sign you need to reevaluate what you're doing. Finally, I want to speak briefly about one particular way that we singles can free ourselves. Over the years, I've noticed that we singles can be a very sensitive lot, much more so than the average person. And that hypersensitivity can lead us to creating and carrying grudges that only impede us in our mortal journey. So many of us are carrying extra baggage when we should be clearing that space out to carry extra joy in our lives. Not holding a grudge against people holding fireworks early. See, I'm eating my dog food. I'm practicing what I preach. But so, yeah, I mean, seriously, so many of us really are carrying extra baggage, and we just need to let go. So if you find yourself in need of letting go, here's a free tip: let go. It's a great song I love by one of my favorite rock groups. It's Rush, by the way. Go Canada. um, Contains these lyrics, right? So here's some lyrics from the song. All that you can do is wish them well. All that you can do is wish them well. The ones that done you wrong, the ones pretended to be so strong, grudges you held for so long. It's not worth singing that same sad song. Thank your stars you're not that way. Turn around and walk away. Don't even pause and ask them why. Just turn around and say goodbye. That's what many of us need to do with the grudges that we bear for past transgressions and trespasses against us. Someone was insensitive and said or did something that we found hurtful. Okay, it was insensitive. That much is true. It is also true that continuing to nurture the wound only prolongs the malady and weakens you in your journey. Just let it go. You don't even need to know why. Sometimes things happen simply because people make choices, and you can make a choice of your own. You can choose to let it go. There are, of course, other ways that LDS singles can free themselves, but my time is limited. And I think the list I've provided here is enough to keep most of us busy. The Savior once taught, the truth will set you free. The truth indeed will set you free, but first it will make you feel very uncomfortable. Push past the discomfort you find as you question your habits of thinking. Question the assumptions that underlie those habits. Question where what you think and do will lead you so that you can avoid mediocrity. Spend more of your time producing than consuming, and let go of any grudges you may be carrying. Let this Independence Day be a day in which you free yourself. It won't come all at once, but it will come as you remain committed to living your best life, regardless of your marital status. And that will bring you more joy in your journey. Well, peeps, that's all I got for this episode of Join the Journey Radio. Let's check the chat and see if we've got any comments or questions, and I'm not seeing any. So thank you all for participating, joining in today. And I hope you're having a wonderful holiday wherever you are. And if it's not a holiday where you are, then make it a holiday. you know, one of the things I picked up from being in Belize as a missionary, and Belize is a great country because every day is a holiday, right? Seriously, every day is a holiday. And so it just kind of like gave me this attitude of, well, if it's not a holiday, then make it one, because that's what a lot of their holidays down there are. They're totally made up. But hey, it's an excuse to, like, kick back and just enjoy yourself. And so, wherever you are, I hope that that's what you're doing. You can kick back and enjoy yourself. Thank you all for joining in again. If you have something you'd like to say about what we discussed today, please leave a comment down below. If you have a question or a topic you'd like to see addressed, we're happy to help. Just leave a comment down below. If there's something we can do to help you overcome the challenges of LDS singles life, then yep, you got it. Leave a comment down below. You can also go to the contact page at jointhejourneyradio.com/contact. Send us a message with the form you find there. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our content that you find helpful so the algorithms will get more of our content out to help other LDS singles. And so until next time, this is your host reminding you there is joy to be had all along your journey. Take that joy and journey on.